And we begin our top stories in South Africa, where the Constitutional Court in South Africa has declared the Copyright Act unconstitutional because it limits and prevents blind people from accessing work protected by copyright. The court ruling is a major victory for the visually impaired, as it will allow them to access more literature.
The Copyright Act in its current form prevents the reproduction of books in Braille without the permission of the copyright holder. Joining us now to examine how this ruling came about is Blind SA CEO Jace Nair. Good morning, Jace. Thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. First of all, congratulations on the ruling by the court. And I'd like to ask you, how does this make you feel?
Thank you very, very much for this opportunity. It has been a long struggle for us for more than 40 years with the apartheid era Copyright Act, which did not provide exceptions and limitations, and therefore did not allow us to transcribe books into accessible formats like Braille, large print, or audio for blind and partially sighted people in this country. It virtually made us as criminals. We had to firstly purchase a printed book, which has little value to us, and then we had to get the permission of publishers and authors. And less than 10% of publishers have given us permission over the years. That's why we find that less than 0.5% of published works in South Africa is available in accessible formats, and those that have been made accessible were produced by NGOs like ourselves. Publishers have not produced these books in accessible format. Most of the books that we have is in English, very little in our local languages. This limits our access to education, to skills, to employment, and to be part of the economy of the country. It kept us in subject poverty because we had to be dependent on social grants because we were not able to access these resources to become employed.
The law in question is, over 40 years old. Can you share, why it took so long for it to be amended? About 79 countries across the world have already got this type of acceptance, but, South Africa did take some time. Is there any reason?
Certainly, there are a number of forces that caused this delay. Firstly, I think the influence of publishers, and in particular multinational publishers, who felt that blind people in America had the protection of the Act for persons with disability in that country. Similarly, in Europe and other places, and with the Marrakesh Treaty, which came into force in 2013, which created an international environment for copyright regimes to enable exceptions and limitations. The South African government indicated that they were willing to ratify the Marrakesh Treaty, provided that there was copyright reform in this country. For the last 20 years, we've been advocating. There have been several commissions set up, and we made inputs into the lack of access for us and the violation of our rights as determined by the Constitutional Court. A bill went to Parliament in 2019. It went to the president, and he sat on it for over 2 years, and then referred it back to Parliament, citing certain areas of concern. That bill, which has 19D in it, 19D is based on the Marrakesh Treaty that provides for accessible copies. There was no contestation in this country around that. However, the other areas of the copyright bill, which looked at fair royalties, at contracts in terms of actors, performers, musicians, etc., their rights in that respect. And then this bill has been sent back to Parliament. Parliament has now sent it to the provinces for their inputs. So we believe by the time that comes into force, it may take another period of time. Therefore, we approached the High Court of Gauteng in September last year, and the High Court on the 21st of September confirmed that the 1978 Copyright Act is unconstitutional in that it limits access to blind people and thereby violates our rights. In South Africa, this provision then would have to be reviewed by the Constitutional Court because it declared an act of parliament as being unconstitutional. This process, on the 12th of May, the Constitutional Court sat and heard our arguments. And we are very grateful that they have understood the impact this violation has had in terms of our basic human rights, in terms of freedom of expression, in terms of access to education, in terms of access to information, and also in terms of the Bill of Rights, in terms of the violation of unfair discrimination against persons with disability. The court confirmed on the 21st of September this year that certain provisions of the Copyright Act is unconstitutional so far as it violates our rights, and it provided the remedy that it provided Section 13A, where it provided for beneficiary persons being defined as blind, as persons with visual impairments, and persons who have a physical disability and unable to turn the pages of a book, and thereby do not have access to that printed work. It made provision for the exceptions that we require so that we can then transcribe those materials into accessible formats of braille, large print, and audio without the permission of the publishers. Right. It also gave government 2 years in which to fix these defects. If not, these provisions will then become permanent. So we now have this immediate remedy that will allow us access to printed works. And we are encouraging publishers to make their works available in an accessible format so that we too can use the soft copy and make them available in braille and in large print so that persons who are unable to read the printed material can then have access to this information.
All right, Jace, now this is a major win for visually impaired people all around South Africa. Now that we've had this conversation and this one has been ticked off, as a visually impaired person yourself, what are the conversations surrounding the struggles that visually impaired people have to deal with in South Africa? What other areas should we shine the light as regards people who are living with visual disabilities?
Certainly, I think firstly, we're very excited that we have access now to information into books. So people, blind and partially sighted persons, can start a culture of reading. Because the more we read, the more we expand our knowledge. We will be able to then access books that are published in other African countries and in the rest of the world. That would be the one big benefit that we have. Other concerns we have is that unemployment in our country is very high for the general citizens. For people who are blind and partially sighted, 97% of blind people are unemployed. So we are hoping that our children will have better access at schools. They can now have textbooks. They can conclude their schooling at the various schools and get to tertiary institutions and take up professions and occupations so that they can be meaningfully occupied, be able to earn an income, be able to pay taxes, and contribute to the economy of our country. We can also then have access to better health services and be able to have good health and be able to participate in general community life.
All right, thank you so much for your time with us, Jace Nair, this morning. Congratulations on the win. And just as you've highlighted all the other challenges, we do hope that the people who are within this category, the visually impaired people, will get more jobs and more opportunities. Thank you for your time this morning.